So I've made about 200, like 175 of these videos. And the thing that I've realized more than anything is that the camera that you're using to make these videos is probably the least of your worries. Especially when you consider that your favorite creators aren't even using the best cameras out right now to create their content. At least my favorite creator isn't. He's creating most of his content on an A7C Mark II. And so rather than getting caught up in camera wars and caught up in specs, because none of that really matters when making content, here are 5 things that I think that you should go out and buy that are way more important than the camera that you're shooting on. One of the first pieces of gear that I think you should go out and buy is a reliable tripod. Whether you want to make content outdoors like this, or whether you want to make it back in your studio at home, you need something to hold your camera. These days, the tripod that I'm using is the Peak Design Everyday Travel Tripod. I would not recommend getting this tripod. I actually hate it. But the mistakes that I made early on in my career is that, I would buy cheap, like Amazon tripods and stuff like that. And I've actually had a camera fall on me, which is the worst. And so I don't necessarily recommend going out and getting an expensive tripod, but I also don't recommend getting a cheap tripod. You want to get something that can be reliable, that you can build up and break down as quickly as possible, and something that most importantly won't make you drop your camera. And so, a lot of people swear by this tripod. For me, it's just okay. I got the cheaper one too. This is just the aluminum one. The carbon fiber one was way too expensive, but instead of worrying about your camera, go out and get yourself a nice tripod. Another thing that I want to mention about tripods is that I also think that you should go out and find yourself a good mini tripod. I use this tripod far more than I use my big or travel size tripod. A mini tripod allows you to take your camera, especially when you're vlogging or whatever. I oftentimes use it as like a handle for my camera. It allows me to place my camera places such as this to be able to record myself. And if you don't have a really huge camera, it does work out better, especially if you're one of those APS-C boys who were in my last video telling me how much better APS-C is than full frame. But find yourself a little mini tripod, and I think you'll be set. It's hard for me to say which one I think you should get first, but if you think that you're gonna be outside and you think that you're gonna be, need something to carry around your camera, I would say get a mini tripod, but you can't go wrong getting a full-size tripod. The second piece of gear that I recommend going out and purchasing is a good way to record your audio. What you guys are listening to now is the Rode Wireless Pro. I like this mic system because it allows me to get away from the camera. It allows me to get like this whole setting. I don't have to be near the camera to get good audio. I have to worry about audio spiking and things like that. It just makes my job easier. But this wireless system is fairly expensive, especially for beginners. This comes in at like 350 bucks. And so I just don't know if, everybody can go out and afford this one. When I'm using an on-camera mic, the mic that I'm using is the Rode NTG, Rode Wireless, nope, that's not right. The Rode Video Mic NTG. I feel like this gives me good sound. I feel like it's reliable. I don't have to worry too much about, spiking or humming, which is common in a lot of like on-camera mics. And the only drawback for this is it's kind of large, and also it comes in at like 279 bucks. For beginners, the on-camera microphone that I usually recommend is the Rode Video Mic Go version 2. Fabulous mic, good sound, and it comes in at a good price of about $70 if you buy it used, and about $100 if you buy it brand new. The third thing that I recommend you go out and get is a monitor, or some means of monitoring yourself. Whether you're in the studio or whether you're outside, like recording like myself. The monitor that I use right now is still the Atomos Ninja V. I've had that for about 5 years now. It serves the purposes that I need it to serve. I don't really need to go out and buy anything new, but that monitor is a lot of money. And so I also have a really cheap monitor that I use, which is something by Viltrox. I don't remember what the name of the monitor is. If I can find the link, I'll put it down in the comments. But the way that I monitor myself, by far, whether I'm in the studio or whether I'm out here recording, you know, outside, is to use the Imaging Edge app by Sony and connect it to my phone. It allows me to be able to see myself. It allows me to be able to find focus. I don't even know if I'm in focus right now, but it seems to be the most reliable way, especially when I want to get away from the camera. And the best thing is that this is free. You don't have to pay any other, you know, service charges or anything like that. At least I don't think you, well, I should say, at least I haven't. There's probably like pro versions of things that you guys can use, but there's a bunch of other like camera apps that you can use that'll connect your phone to your camera. There's new ways to connect, you know, monitors to your phones. You need some way to monitor yourself, and I think that that's a good piece of gear that'll serve you way more than what you're shooting on. The fourth piece of gear that I would tell you to go out and buy, rather than, you know, focusing on the newest camera systems or specs like that, it's just a second camera that you can use as a backup camera. You guys have seen me whip out my A7C a lot for kind of second shots or whatever. A lot of times the second camera that I use is a GoPro, but by far the camera that I use the most as my second camera is my cell phone. I use a Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and the cameras on cell phones right now are getting really good. I wouldn't go so far as to say that they're as good as my A7 IV or even as good as my A7C. You just can't beat a full frame sensor. I stand by that, but at times when I'm just filming like B-roll, or especially when I'm getting like wide establishing shots, the camera on this cell phone helps me out a lot. And so get yourself a good B camera, or use your cell phone as your kind of second shot or second frame. It'll go a long way. I can't tell if you guys can tell if it's raining out right now, but I think I'm gonna give you guys this last tip back home in the studio just to kind of protect the gear. All right, here we are back in the studio. It started pouring outside. I don't know if you guys could hear it, but we got the camera set up in the studio. We got some orange juice for the algorithm. And let's talk about that last piece of gear that I highly recommend. So instead of worrying about what camera you're shooting on, go out, get yourself a nice ND filter. This one is made by KNF Concepts. You can see that it has this little red hook there. This allows me to change it when it's on the lens. Another thing that I like about this ND filter is that it has hard stops on either end. It stops you from like the ND filter from like spinning too far and you getting like that X pattern. One thing I always try to like recommend like budget options for things that I recommend on this channel. But I will say, go out and try to buy the best ND filter that you can with your budget, because you really want to put a nice piece of glass in front of your expensive glass. You know what I mean? So you don't want any color shifting. You don't want that crazy X pattern. I'm not saying go out and buy the Peter McKinnon one. I used to have that one. It worked out for a while, but then it cracked. But I do recommend this KNF one. And then I also use like this little earth one that's on my 20mm. I leave this one on there just because it's not super important to me that I get like the best video quality when I'm shooting with my A7C. But I did want one that had hard stops, and this one has hard stops. This does have a little bit of like magenta color shift, but I'm okay with that. Speaking of filters, another thing that I want to say is, like, if you guys know me, you guys hear that thunder? If you guys know me, you know that I shoot with all prime lenses, prime lenses, prime lenses. Here's an 85 or whatever. I don't go out and buy an ND filter for every lens that I shoot with. But what I do go out and buy is, they're called step-up rings. And so basically this ND filter is an 82mm filter. And I swap this between all of my lenses, and I put one of these step-up rings on each one of my lenses. Therefore, this 67 millimeter, I buy a 67 to 82 millimeter step up ring, and then that allows me to put this ND filter on any lens that I am using. So those are the 5 things that I think you should go out and buy. Forget about the cameras. You know what I mean? Like, camera companies are gonna try to sell you cameras. Influencers are gonna try to sell you stuff. You know, however you feel about that, that's how you feel about it. But if you are, you know, trying to make content and you're really thinking about, you know, what should you spend your hard-earned cash on, get a good tripod, a reliable tripod that you can put your camera on and not have to worry about whether or not it's going to fall over. Get yourself a good mic system. No one wants to watch a video with bad audio. Get yourself a good way to monitor yourself. You don't need to go out and buy an Atomos Ninja. Just get something that's big enough that you can see yourself. You know, use your cell phone. I'm actually monitoring myself on my cell phone right now, if you guys can see that. Hey, you know, get yourself some good ND filters, and then also get yourself, you know, a second camera, whether that's your phone or an action camera, whatever it is. Just have a second way to sort of, you know, record yourself. That's it. If you guys have more questions about anything that I talked about in this video, let me know down in the comments. Let's chop it up. And then, yeah, I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.